Anxiety disorder is up 25% since 2020, and it's contributing to a rise in alcohol abuse, especially among women. Dr. Lanty Jornby is the Chief Medical Officer of Lakeview Health Recovery Center and is joining us now via Zoom. Good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.
Doctor, what are the factors contributing to this, do you think?
Well, I think COVID has to be mentioned. It's really the elephant in the room because when people went through the lockdowns and the quarantines, it really created a whole host of anxiety. Obviously, people were dealing with their own health concerns, but then you add in financial issues and worries about losing their job. All of these things kind of combined into a perfect storm. And it really created a climate where people were able to drink more, maybe unobserved by work colleagues or even by family. And then they really ended up escalating their drinking. People that may not have had an alcohol problem prior to COVID ended up with significant problems with alcohol because the COVID pandemic, and obviously it's still ongoing, had persisted for quite a while. So the stressors were there.
And why more women than men, do you think?
Well, that is a really great question. What we know about research into women and alcohol use, and actually women in addiction, is that women are more vulnerable to not only the effects of drugs and alcohol, their bodies don't handle those things as easily or as well as men do. So they come into us where I work much sicker, much more advanced disease. But women are more prone to try and self-medicate. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but it's basically where they develop anxieties or depression and they gravitate towards substances to help themselves feel better. Especially women are vulnerable to the effects of anxiety. And so, for instance, women gravitate to alcohol or benzodiazepines more readily than men do, and to treat those problems, to treat anxiety and stress.
So what are the signs? I mean, are there red flags? Is this someone who is noticeably drunk by family members? Or, I mean, is this someone who used to drink just on weekends and now drinks during the week? I mean, how do you know when it's time to maybe sit down and have that conversation?
I think when you start to see changes in behaviors, people aren't showing up for work on time, they're missing family obligations, their emotional status seems to be off. Maybe they're moody or irritable more easily. They don't seem quite themselves. Those are all red flags. Obviously, financial issues that come up could be a problem if they're having more inter-relationship type conflicts where they're not getting along with their spouses easily. Basic responsibilities are being missed. These are all signs and symptoms that there may be a bigger problem. And what I always counsel family and friends of people that we're treating to really approach those individuals with compassion, with a gentle understanding or an attempt to just treat them with empathy. You don't want to be judgmental. You don't want them to feel shame and guilt, because I can promise you that they're already feeling that deep down. And just try to talk to them and tell them that you care, tell them that you're worried, and see if you can get them to allow you to get them to someone that they trust, whether it be a physician, a clergy person, someone that in the family or a friend that can help take it to the next step, which would be obviously getting some treatment or getting at least an evaluation.
And what kind of treatment is available, and can insurance cover something like that?
Yes, actually, there's a variety of treatment options available. Where I work, we have options that start from the very top, which is detox, and inpatient treatment, which is generally a 45-day stay. And then you can go all the way down to outpatient treatment, which is outpatient clinics or even intensive outpatient, which is where someone's going to groups about 3 days a week for 3 hours. So there's a variety of treatment options. And what I always encourage people on, if they're dealing with alcohol specifically, you really want to think about detox and inpatient first, because alcohol can be fatal if you try and detox yourself at home. There's a lot of really serious things that can happen, such as seizures and delirium, and you never want that to happen. So you always want to evaluate if someone is drinking heavily enough that they need to consider an inpatient detox first.
Doctor, thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.